from legally carrying arms, pero valid din naman yung concerns ng mga kababaihan at pamilya na there is somebody in the home that is licensed to carry firearms, tapos meron na siyang pinakitang violent action. Paano kaya natin yun mabibigyan ng protection?
Your Honor, the case being cited by Senator Pia Cayetano can very well be addressed by the other requirements in the availing of the permit to carry firearms outside of residence. Like for example, pag may history siya ng violence, kung magpaparecord sa police station yung kanyang asawa, so mayroon na siyang blatter doon sa estasyon.
Okay, yes.
So one of the requirements for a PTC4 is police clearance.
Okay.
So pag mayroon siyang record doon, hindi siya makakuha siya ng police clearance, pero may note doon na he is, may blatter siya dito of violence.
And then what happens is that
hindi siya ma-approve.
Okay.
Hindi siya mabigyan ng
because of
PTC
that.
because of that.
I'm comfortable with that, Mr. President.
Yes,
kasi
because,
yun na yung protection ng pamilya na hindi basta-basta Alam niyo naman, you know what, that story I'm concerned about, di ba, na nagyayabang pa na may baril ako, ganon. So, okay, I'm okay with that. I wanna get the opinion of my female colleague if that sounds, it sounds reasonable naman na
It sounds more than reasonable, Mr. President.
May the
And
chair-
I thank my kabaro for
May the
bringing that up.
chair suggest, having heard the opinions of our colleagues, can we just place in the section, Your Honor, Senator Bato, that the pendency of a criminal case will not automatically disqualify an applicant unless disqualified either by order of the court
Yes.
or by relevant regulations that may be issued to address the changing needs of the times. So, ang sinasabi natin sa provision, kasi nakalagay dito, shall not be disqualified. Anyone with a pending case shall not be automatically disqualified
I accept, Mr. President.
unless so ordered by a court of competent jurisdiction or by regulations.
And
So,
regulation means
sa IRR, pag may policy yung presidente, yung chief PNP na, alam mo, dumadami yung mga gantong krimen, pagbawal, mag-stricto tayo ng ganto. Yung sinasabi niyo pong pag may blotter, regulation lang po yun, di ba? Na hindi siya i-issuean ng permit to carry outside of residence.
Correct,
That's
Mr.
only a
President.
regulation, that's not in the law. So
Yes,
if the law, if the regulations so limit it, pero hindi siya automatic disqualification.
I agree, Mr. President.
Would that be
Oh,
acceptable?
because I'll take it further, Mr. President, no. Ang madalas naming kaso in our show is yung nakainom, tapos yung mga tambay diyan na nanggugulo lang talaga sa neighborhood, like whether may baril pa yan or balisong or nothing. Ang yabang-yabang makaasta doon, 'di ba? Parang mananakit talaga. So again, that could be covered by regulation kasi mabablatter din siya eh.
Yes,
yung
aside from
sinasabi niyo, mabablatter din yun eh dahil nanggugulo ka sa community.
Aside from the blatter, police blatter or police clearance system, Your Honor, Mr. President, meron pa yung kaukulang background investigation. Bago ka bibigyan ng threat assessment. Kasi one of the requirements for permit to carry firearms outside of residence is for you to have a threat assessment coming from the PNP. Ang maggawa nito is yung intelligence group ng PNP, the Directorate for Intelligence, at kasama dyan sa kanilang gagawing threat assessment is yung background investigation sa iyo. Kung ikaw ay lasinggero, ikaw ay kilala na bully sa komunidad, lalabas yan sa report doon na galing sa intelligence, sa threat assessment, na hinihingi mo, so hindi ka mabibigyan ngayon ng threat assessment dahil ay pagka-abusado ka.
Okay. Okay.
So may the chair take the liberty of proposing subject to style.
I accept, Mr. President.
The provision from line 12 after the word provided until the word jurisdiction on line 17 shall now be read as follows after deleting the same. provided that an applicant who has a pending criminal case shall not be automatically disqualified unless ordered disqualified by a court of competent jurisdiction or prohibited by relevant laws and or regulations. Subject to sign.
I accept, Mr. President.
Pero, Mr. President, if I may,
Please.
if usually, for example, there is a crime that is committed, I noticed that the PNP, through the Chief of Police, or the Philippine National Police Chief, issues an order to revoke all his firearms, his or her firearms, especially when they're on the run. There's a warrant of arrest that's issued against a certain individual, and nagtatago sila. Siguro isama natin
Yeah.
that the authority, which is the police chief, can also revoke their permit if there's a pending.
Insert yun.
Yeah,
It will be,
We
it
can
will be
insert
covered
that.
by relevant rules and regulations that if he is wanted by the law, if he is running from the law,
Yes.
then it can be revoked. But by regulation, because we cannot
Okay.
possibly provide for every possible scenario and situation that may arise in this provision.
Okay.
Okay.
Because, Mr. President, for example, for example, our friends in the media, maraming kaso ng mga libel yan. Just because may libel cases yan, they're not allowed to own firearms, bawa din naman sila. They have to protect themselves. So this amendment of Senator Bato is actually a good amendment, so at least they'll be able to, it's not automatically disqualified if they have a case.
Yes.
Correct, Mr.
That will be the effect of that.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, if I may also just make of record,
Please.
una po salamat sa good sponsor sa partially pagbubukas muli dun sa punto na in-interpolate ko noon dito naman sa period of amendment. Nung sinabi po nila na baka unless charged with crimes punishable by more than 20 years. I appreciate po yung effort ng good sponsor, balikan yung interpellation namin at magluwag ng kaunti. Again, I reiterate my appreciation to my fellow woman senator, Senator Pia, for bringing up that aspect of violence against women as it may be impacted by our bill. And last but not the least, salamat tabi din sa presiding officer, Senate President, for providing what may be the broadest possible retention of some of the current protections under the law by his formulation accepted by the good sponsor in relation to actions of the court, laws and regulations. So, since it's no longer necessary for me to accept the amendment to my amendment of the good sponsor, then I just would like to put on record my thanks. and
Thank you, Senator
appreciation,
Pia.
Mr. President.
Senator Risa, allow the chair to dispose first of the amendment. So there is a proposed amendment to the amendment duly accepted by the author, the sponsor. Is there any objection? Hearing none, the same is hereby approved. Senator Cayetano.
Mr. President.
Mr. President, I may have a proposed amendment, but it's still a clarificatory question first. Still on Section 2, but on the first part, I note that it refers to a crime that is punishable with a penalty of more than 2 years, no? So I direct my question to the lawyers in the Senate Hall and also our Secretariat who help us with the language. Ano ba yung rule natin? Are we trying to, this is a special law, so we go by years. We will not follow the usual standard in the revised penal code where we define arresto mayor, arresto menor, prison mayor. Ano bang rule natin? Sana may consistency tayo para standardize ang lawmaking natin. I don't really care. It can still be within that time frame, but for form.
Given the existence of special laws which provide for penalties not following those provided for in the revised penal code, usually
They
what I've
usually go
seen
by years,
is we go
no?
by years, and
Years,
they
okay.
just go to the corresponding penalty imposed by the court, which specifies the years of arresto mayor or prison correccional in the decision convicting an accused.
Okay.
Di ba range siya of 6
Yeah.
to 12 years?
Yeah.
The years are specified. But the more relevant question would be why 2 years? Because you either go by probationable or non-probationable. Probationable meaning lighter crimes or offenses. Non-probationable meaning more serious crimes and offenses.
That's my second question. Kasi pinag-isipan naman yata nung mga predecessor natin ng mahaba yung below 6 months, di ba? Tapos 6 months to 6 years, tapos 6 years to 12 years, 12 years to 20 years. So sana may relevance itong 2 years. Ano ba yung mga crimes na eksakto sa 2 years? Dapat alam natin yun.
May I throw the question at Senators Zubiri and De La Rosa, who are the
Proponents.
movers of this bill. Again, 6 years, below 6 years is probationable. If you're a first-time offender, not a recidivist, not a habitual delinquent, you can apply for probation. Ibig sabihin, hindi naman serious offense to. Hindi mo kailangan makulong, probation ka. Above 6 years, you're not eligible for probation anymore. Now, do you want that? That can be a possible threshold,
Okay sa akin yun, Mr. President.
which is more lenient
Yes.
than
Okay
2
po sa
years.
akin. Okay po sa akin, Mr. President. I don't know the
No,
co-sponsor.
if that is the
co-author.
intention, to make it easier.
Yes, Mr. President. Because
Hindi ba yun ang intention?
these 2 years is stated in the existing law, the present law, that we are
existing
amending.
law.
This is not part
Not
of
an
our
amendment.
Dati na ito.
So we can make that amendment, Mr. President. I think Senator Pia is just
Yeah, I'm just pointing it out so that we consciously are amending what we want to amend. And if this is not a proposed amendment, we are consciously not touching it. Hindi yung
Okay.
parang di lang natin ginagalaw na hindi natin napag-isipan. Kasi if you ask me, I'll just go by the basis of the Senate President na generally, yun yung mga 6 years and below. Hindi ko kasi
minor
I don't
crimes,
know
no?
off the top of my head kung ano yung pasok sa 2 years, ano yung 3, ano yung 4. Parang 6 years and below yung general ano niyan eh. Unless hihimayin talaga natin isa-isa. So if we go by the wisdom of the previous Congress that set it at 2 years, follow lang tayo. That's why I tossed it to the lawyers, no, to get their insight.
According to my expert here, Senator.
Mr. President, Mr. President, if we can contribute to the discussion,
6 months to 6 years.
okay, we will assume that we are recognizing. Mr. President, ito yung requirements ata na may declaration si applicant. That sasabihin ni applicant that I have not been convicted of a crime punishable by more than 2 years. So, dapat stricto tayo. This is a convict that we are allowing to possess firearms, Mr.
Correct.
President. So, let us not make it 6 years, masyado naman. So 2 years, okay na po yun. Lesson mo, dapat nga i-lesson pa. Kung tutusin. If you're a convict, you are not allowed to own firearms. Dapat. Pero ito, parang may concession na 2 years. So that's the current state of the law, Mr. President. So I will discourage being more lenient, Mr. President, to the convict. Thank you.
We have the intention of amending this
ex-convict.
particular provision, Mr. President. Mr. President, can we continue with page 2?
Yes, please proceed.
Senator Subiri has some amendments on page 2.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, if I may, on page 2, section 3, on lines 29, after the word business, Mr. President, delete the line, provided that such permit shall be valid for 2 years from the date of the approval of the application unless sooner revoked or suspended, and will be replaced with, provided that such permit shall be valid for 2 years, 5 years, 2, 5, or 10 years, as the case may be, depending on the term of the corresponding LTOP, unless sooner revoked or suspended. So, ang punto dyan, Mr. President, is that the PNP chief can issue a permit to carry. Right now, by law, it's only 2 years. But he can make it 2 years, he can make it 5 years, he can make it 10 years. The reason being, for example, you're a retired judge. You're 65 or 70 years old. I think the retired judge is 70 years old. He may apply for a 10-year permit to carry para naman hindi naman sa every 2 years magbabalik sa chief of police kasi anyway, he's qualified being a retired judge and maybe his life will continuously be in danger, especially if he handles high-profile cases. Yun lamang po, Mr. President. Maybe, if I ask for 1 minute suspension, Mr. President, I just want to clarify something.
Session suspended.
Yung corresponding LTAP, that means